Gripping and ripping. I'm all about
All right.
positivity.
Welcome to Positivity is the Way to Go. It is a great pleasure to have the former co-host of Around the Horn for 23 years. Welcome, Tony Reali, to the show. Hey now.
Hey now, Dion. This has been a long time
I
coming,
remember,
so thank you. I'm doing
I
great.
remember when you
I'm
used to
doing
throw
great.
the paper out and stuff. You know, you always throw the paper at the end and stuff. You know,
Don't
that
have
was
any
the
paper in
coolest
front of me,
part.
but I'm still
That was
carrying it. Can you see?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, there we go. So I still bleed around the horn. It's still close to my heart. So is I guess Sarah Spain. I don't know who made this, but we are. I grew up playing video games, so I was happy to be treated up like NBA Jam.
Well, yeah, you a champion in your own right, man.
Right back at you, Dion.
So after more than 2 decades at ESPN, what were some of the most memorable or surprising moments you had while you was on Around the Horn and working on Partner Interruption?
Oh, it was a surprise to even be on, Dion, because while my dream was always to be on air, on TV, since I was 5 years old, talking about sports, when I started working with Pardon the Interruption and Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon and the great team there, I was not hired to be on TV. So the great surprise, if you're asking me for the greatest surprise, it was that week before we launched Pardon the Interruption, October of 2001, Dion, when you were still such a young man, I'm sure.
I was born 1997. So.
Exactly. So you were, I mean, but the surprise was a week before they said, you know what, Tone, we like your energy. We like what you're bringing. Can you be the sidekick on the show? So when I was hired to be the researcher, which is very much an important position. And once you're a researcher, you're always a researcher. I still see the world as a researcher, but that's a position for a TV show, but that's not supposed to be on air. So the biggest surprise was, a week before they told me I'd be on the TV show with Kornheiser and Wilbon, just doing what I'm doing off air, breaking them down a little bit, correcting them a little bit, and running some of the games we did. So it's a lesson for life. And I know this is a show about positivity, Dion, and that's why you and I are aligned, simpatico. But life for me is finding those moments, those positive moments, but finding any moment in life and being able to roll with it and adapt with it, even the ones that aren't positive per se in the moment. You have to be able to roll with life. So I took a moment where I was hired to be one thing and I turned it into another. And the same played out with Around the Horn as well a couple of years later.
Yeah, and that's how you became Stat Boy.
Yes.
On Partner.
You remember? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like what aspects of that experience most prepare you for hosting your own show?
Well, Stat Boy is, and I'm still happy to be called Stat Boy. I still think of myself as Stat Boy in my head.
Man, you like a brainiac. You like a
exactly. That's what I was trying to say. That took up and showed people a big part of my personality, especially at that time in my life. I was a brainiac. I was a smart aleck. I was a know-it-all in some ways. I mean, I hope to think I wasn't, totally, rude about it, but I liked knowing things and making people know that I know things, which sounds obnoxious in some ways. But I liked being a trivia expert. I loved the TV show Jeopardy. And I love sports trivia too. And who knows what's next for me, but I do have an idea that I want to do sports game shows and sports trivia game shows, right? So Stat Boy demonstrated and allowed a part of me to come out, which was the know-it-all. Now, it's important to do that with a smile. And I think I was able to do that on Around PTI with a smile, but it set the stage for Around the Horn, where I became not the sidekick, but the host and the person who kind of moved the show forward, and the showrunner in some ways, I guess, is the term people use now. I got to be a know-it-all and a smart aleck there, but I got to evolve it a little bit into somebody who, the other part of my person, which was wanting to put other people in positions to shine, right? And that's what Around the Horn became to me. While being a know-it-all, I also was able to tell an audience, I know that this person has something special and you got to watch them cook right now with their sports opinion. And that's what that show became about.
Like Woody Page and, you know, Bill Plaschke and Tim Cowlishaw,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Woody
Although you
Page
don't got to
doing it.
work, you don't got to work hard with Woody Page. Woody Page is like if you're a point guard and he's Shaq, you just throw him the ball down low and he's gonna go to work. You know, he's gonna turn around, pivot, and dunk on somebody. You know, so that was one personality. But I've worked with a lot of different personalities. Much again, if I can apply this to finding the positivities in life, right? You're going to be around all different sorts of people in life at any moment. You know, your family, think of it that way. Your mom is one way, your dad's one way, your siblings this way, your aunts this way, you know, and you're you. But you want to get along with all those different types of people. So you have to explore different parts of your person, right? And work with all those people.
Exactly. And you did a good job of that for 2 decades plus,
Thank
man.
you, sir. Yeah.
And my brother that had got murdered like years ago, he was a big fan of Around the Horn, man. He used to always watch his show and everything, man. Right now, he like trying it down. It'd be an honor for me to have you on right now, man.
Well, I feel that, and thank you for telling me. I didn't know that, Dion, and that's terrible.
Well, sometimes in life it's hard, like, to be vulnerable, you know, because you don't know if people are gonna take it good or bad. You know, you tell people.
I feel that too, right? I've experienced that in my own life, even on Around the Horn. How I process something like you just said, or how I process some of my losses in my life, or some of the people in my life who are struggling, or when I'm struggling, I try to always remember, you know, your brother's impact on you can still be positive. It can still be present and positive, right? He's no longer here. And that is tragedy. And that is sad. And how he left you is terrible. But the impact he had on your life, you can still affect yourself and other people in a positive way, and therefore he can affect people in a positive way. You understand what I'm saying? So even by you sharing that with me, I know the impact he had on you got you to your space right now where you're doing something, you're creating something, you're hosting a show, and that's a positive, I'm sure, in your life. It's a good thing in the world. You're putting out something that is positive and good. And I'm sure your brother got you to that place. And even as sad as that was in your life, and you leave space for what that is, the grief, let it also have space to be full and positive.
Exactly, you know. Appreciate the kind words, man.
What was your brother's name? What is your
Simeon Davis?
Simeon Davies. And how old was he when he left us?
He was 28. He was 5 years younger than me. He was 5 years older than me.
Yeah, wow. That's a loss, you know, for you, and of course for everybody who knew him, and you will carry him with you, just like I carry the people who are not with me. I think about this. You don't need to say it. You don't need, but it's just part of who you are, and you just carry that with you, and you can allow them to do good for you, you know, by doing good for others. Yeah.
Exactly. So what is your response to criticism that Around the Horn was canceled for being too woke?
Oh.
And what do you think the show's legacy will be?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that, Dion. I don't really think too much about how it ended anymore. I'm happy to talk about it. It's not something that I think about. That show went on 23 years. That's a full life times 2 times 3 for any TV show. It was ending because the people who make decisions decided to end it, but it wasn't because of any reason. I know that in my heart. I know people could see it in another way, but I know that in my heart because the people who work on Around the Horn are still doing amazing things elsewhere, and I'll be doing amazing things elsewhere. Nobody ended. We can be honest with ourselves and happy and proud that our show touched upon topics that weren't the easiest topics to talk about. And I can admit sometimes the show touched upon things that people weren't ready to hear, didn't want to hear, or maybe even we stepped on a line, and that was a line for somebody. I can recognize that. That's fine. But I don't spend any real estate in my head. The legacy, I mean, the legacy is what you leave behind. The legacy is 4,953 episodes. And I mean, in the end, there may have been 55 people on the show, but we introduced so many people to the show. That's a legacy. It was a game show about debate with a scoring system that nobody could quite put their finger on. That's a legacy in some ways. For me personally, it will always be, along with PTI, how people were introduced to me, and I'm proud of that. I can take everything that came with that show. You can tell me I could have said one thing different once. I mean, I said a billion things over 8,000 episodes between those two shows, and I can happily say I put who I was as a person out there. And that's the legacy that I leave behind, that you saw the real Tony, you know? There's many different ways to do a show, Dion, or a podcast that you're doing now. There's many ways to do what you do, what I do, and how you do it should be different than how I do it. And how other people do sports debate or sports TV, or how a network does it, is going to be different than I do it. And that's the way it should be. Everybody should be unique. But I'll tell you this, I never want to do something that's not who I am. I want to be one-to-one who I am right off this camera than as I am on this camera. So that's the legacy. I feel people got to know me in a way that I felt was my real me.
I think that you would be a great host on Jeopardy, man.
You and my dad. That's a
about.
dream job. It's one of the many dream jobs. Yeah.
You would be a good host on Jeopardy, man.
Well, that's a great show.
I mean, any show. You could just held a button with you like on Around the Horn. I like y'all point system though, man.
Thank you.
And I like we used to buzz people out and stuff like Bomani Jones, or you had like the fire thing, you know.
Oh, I'll give him credit. He took those mutes. And Bomani, I mean, I'm not trying to say anybody was smarter than anybody else, because that's but Bomani is as smart as they come on our show. And he never lost a debate. I'll tell you that. The time just went up, you know. He never lost anything. I had to. Other people won debates over him, and that was how the score ended. But if the time was going on even longer, he would have wound up winning, because he's that type of intellect and that type of debater. He was great, and that's, you know, for me, fun.
Exactly. I know you had like discussed your Catholic faith and how you balance it and your personal beliefs. What role does faith play in your life?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, for me, and this, I would apply this to anybody. It doesn't have, I am Catholic, and go to church and raised in the church, but I'm happy if anyone finds faith anywhere, or finds a value system outside of what would be considered a traditional faith anywhere. As long, I hope people are intentional, and I try to be intentional in how I do things, how I act, how I see the world. And in a lot of ways, you know, my Catholic faith and faith, you know, that's the capital F, and lowercase f, faith in general and things, gets me through the day. For me, that's as simple as trying to understand the big questions to life, but also try to understand the little questions to life, right? For me, also, it was important to demonstrate to people, because I felt I was in a public position, that I was a person of faith, or that people of faith and all different faiths could exist on the show I was doing. I mean, I think it's important for people to show their faith, because it could be helpful for anyone in a moment. That's how I view it. You know, I'm not viewing it in a way I want to convert people. No way. No, that's not me. Or I'm not telling you I believe absolutely everything that every other Catholic or might believe. I don't even try to subscribe to myself in that way. I just want to demonstrate, or if I'm a public person, wait, look how that guy does it. Maybe I can do it in my own way to myself, right? You know, it doesn't have to be, you got to be kneeling in the pew next to me. You can be going to the mosque or to temple, or you can be going to a quiet place. In my family, of course, growing up in my family with my mom and dad, in my family, we were Catholic. but I have now taken in a bigger family. I've married into a family that has Muslim, and it has Protestant, and it has Jewish, and it has people who don't believe conventionally in those terms, you know? And while that may be an eye-opening experience to people, but that's what the world is. For me, it was very natural to have people who are different faiths in my life. And I appreciate that too.
Well, Reggie White, he was a big believer in the Lord and
Reverend.
everything.
Yeah.
He had a documentary on ESPN and stuff. And he was one of like the greatest football players on the defensive side to play in the NFL, you know?
Yeah, the minister of defense, Reggie White
Yeah.
was such a beautiful athlete. I don't know. Like, this is a history lesson. You're a young sports fan. I mean, I love history lessons, but Reggie White, what a wrecking ball. I mean, Mount Rushmore on the defensive line in that way. But I don't think he gets enough credit for his strength and his speed. Oh, he was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful player. Loved him.
Yeah, he was up there with Lawrence Taylor and everything, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's a very short list. And I think Aaron Donald is the closest we come. J.J. Watt as well to that in a more recent game. But, I mean, what a wrecking ball.
Yeah, I don't know why Aaron Donald retired, man. He still can play. He still be repped and everything, man.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of teams who wish they had him right
man.
now. I mean, yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
if this is a podcast about positivity, I would guarantee you he's finding so many great positives in life in addition to football right now, and his body is probably feeling good. See, here's what I thought about when you reached out to me, right? We're having a big conversation about my sports career and everything, but I'm always interested, you know, in how people find the positives in life. So can I ask you, Dion? This is the risk you run with having a host as your guest. Now I'm trying to host you. But what makes you be positive, find the positivities in life, and even on those days that, you know, this is what I say, on those days that are kind of stinky, how do you get to a place where you can still see the positives?
Well, I would say God, you know, he get me through it. My mother, you know, and I like to give back. I like to help people, you know. Giving back is the best feeling in the world, you know. When you give back, it's because he say it's better to give than to receive, you know. When you're doing stuff for other people and not thinking about yourself, you know.
I feel that I've stolen that line. Probably, I don't think it's my own, but if you want to feel good about yourself, do things for other people, right? That's a line that I think I've stolen. But if not, okay, maybe I'll take credit for it. But no, so I feel that too. I will add something to this. You know, everybody's personality is different. You know, I think I came out of my mom confident in some ways, foolishly confident. You know, Dion, I was 5 foot 90 pounds junior year, probably senior year in high school. I didn't grow. There was no reason for me to be confident. You know, I was
like 6'7", Tony.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, they come in all shapes and sizes, but I'm just saying, as a young boy, I had confidence. It was totally but my point is, I am a hard charging guy who's going to want to love himself. But I say this as much as I believe you want to feel good about yourself, do things for other people. I do believe self-love, you know, and recognizing your worth and your self-worth and feeling good about yourself really is a foundational cornerstone for positivity. And you can't feel good about yourself unless you actually feel good, right? So it's taking care of your health, which is why I say, you know, mental health is just health. You know, we talked about this in sports. You know, if a player's struggling with mental health, think about viewing that like a torn ACL, you know, or a broken arm, or going to the fitness room and getting a massage. You know, they need to work on that, just like they're training in other ways. So it's hard to love yourself always. There's parts of you that, you know, you're not going to love. And it's hard to love yourself if you're in a pain, right? Discomfort, if your health isn't right, you know? So even before that, getting those steps right for me are things that lead to positivity. But being confident in knowing who you are, You don't have to be confident that you're going to go in the room and people are going to like, wow, I want to marry that person, or I want to give that person the highest paying job, or I mean, that's an unreal expectation. That's not the type of confidence I'm talking about. It's just the confidence knowing that you're going to be able to show people you are who you are, right? That type of confidence, that type of love of yourself, right? That to me is a good cornerstone for living a life that's going to find the positivities in life.
Well, how has your kids like changed your perspective of life?
Yeah, this is a good question, Dion. Much as like I wanted to be a sportscaster since I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a dad more than anything. And it was going to always be, where I ended up. Say that because I told this to my wife, who was my girlfriend, on our first date. I want to have 5, 6, 7 kids, which is an example of how confident I was, but also how starry-eyed I was about it. But I didn't know it was going to be a hard thing for us to conceive when we were married. And that's been so then that brought pressures into our life because we weren't able to have the family as quickly or as easily as we would want, right? So that actually led to my first lesson. You asked me, how has my kids changed, how I see? Well, it started before kids. We couldn't have kids as easily as we wanted, and that was not a positive. That was a negative. Now that negative, and I don't like using words like, I'll call that a negative because I processed it. I processed it in a negative way. I let it be something that was not a good thing in my life, and I had to work on that to turn it into something that was something manageable. But I allowed it to be something big in my own head, like we can't have kids, oh no, and then you put pressure on the person you love most in the world. But we did have, and we have 3 wonderful, healthy children now. How have they brought positivity in my life? Well, children and being a parent is, to me, very much a very fun expression of life, right? It's a metaphor for life in the grand scheme. You don't have to have kids or be a parent in life to know this, but it's another example that life will throw anything at you at any moment. And it's not trying to control that. It's actually how you respond to that, right? Life is how you respond. Life is how you adapt. So being a parent is for me, the greatest example of that, how you respond to anything in life, how you roll with it. Because one kid's personality is here, one kid's personality is here. I think I'm actually pointing to them right now, right? So yeah, so one kid's personality, right? And then this one's over here and this one's over here. So just that amount of chaos, for lack of a better word, and rolling with that and finding the joy through chaos is an adventure, is a challenge, is not easy. And there are moments where you just lose it. You're like, oh, we're never going to get through the terrible.
2 in the morning, right? It'd be 2 in the morning. You never get sleep at all.
Well, that part when they're an infant, but even the terrible 3s, which became the terrible 4s, which they weren't really terrible, but in the moment they're terrible, right? Which became the terrible 5s. I say all this, we went through a pandemic while one of them was 3 and 4. And then now you're like, you can never get a breath. You can never get air, right? They're always with you and vice versa. And then slowly, as they get older, being a parent is about letting go just a little bit every day, just a little bit. But I tell you, moments of positivity, but I cried yesterday. I had a tough one yesterday because my middle child needs glasses now. All right, you wear glasses. I wore glasses at 5, okay? I had LASIK surgery since I made a decision. But I had wore glasses at 5 to 21. I'm a glasses wearing person. In my head, I'm a glasses wearing person because that's what I was for my.
Why you ain't wearing them right now, Tony?
Well, I had LASIK surgery, and I don't need to wear them. Sometimes I wear glasses with no lenses. Around kids.
So you look cool.
Because I look cool. But I'm just telling you, in my head, I'm a glasses wearing dude because that's what I was when I came to become an adult, right? So Enzo, he's 7, so he's not really processing any of this, but I'm trying to slowly build him up to this eye appointment because I think he's going to need glasses because he's got my genes, right? But I saw my boy hear it from the doctor and those words hang in the air. And I saw him slowly come to recognition that he was going to be, I think, the first boy in his class with glasses. And it became something that he had a very strong feeling about. And that moment became tears. And that, to me, brought tears for myself, you know? And could I process that better? Yes, absolutely. But the reality is, I felt he was sad, and then I was sad that he was sad, and maybe I was projecting my sad feelings on him. These are all ridiculous things to say now, but I bring this up in this conversation because that is life. It's going to throw you that curveball. I mean, it's not unexpected, kids need glasses, but he's going to deal with it in his way. And then I have to deal with it my way. Then I have to allow my way to actually, because I'm the parent in this relationship, lift him up. Even though in the moment it wasn't something I was lifting him with. I was actually sad, That is life. This is how parenting continues to be something that educates a parent. And anyone can get this in other parts of their life too. But this is my very acute moment right now that I'm processing.
As well said, man. You will handle it real good, man. But what is next but Mr. Tony Reali, man?
That big question, Tion.
Are you still in discussions with ESPN and Disney for future projects, or are you exploring a completely different path?
Yeah, Tion, you know this. You know this about me, right? Maybe you don't know this. Well, I mean, you reached out to me a few months ago when I signed off around the world.
And that's when I reached out. Like,
yeah. And I want to say, I think I did one interview. I surprised one person with an interview just at the top, and I've surprised a few people with fantasy football drafts, and I came on. But I haven't talked to anybody. You're the first interview. You're the first show I've done since Le Batard, maybe a few months ago. I've taken some time to be quiet, which is not natural.
It's hard to do, right? It's hard to do for you, right?
Because
that's what you were thinking. You like, I gotta talk to somebody. I gotta
talk to somebody. I've taken some time to be quiet, but I've taken some time to educate myself. And I say that to mean there is a new business that isn't the business that I broke into when I first started doing shows so many years ago, right? I've dreamed of being the host of Jeopardy. I've talked about some of the great jobs that are in the industry that I love watching other people do, Jeopardy, hosting Red Zone, hosting all these things. I don't want to do those things per se. I love those jobs. And I want to do the next version of whatever that is, right? I want to invent the next version of what. So my answer to you is, your man's cooking. I'm cooking.
Oh yeah, you got the beef stew and a pot and everything, the mashed potatoes, and
rice. So yeah,
you baking it up. You don't know what you're baking yet, though.
I don't know, but I know
There's
I'm
some in there, though, right?
but I'm saying I know I'm the cook, right? And I even know I can have the restaurant. That's where the industry is different now, and that excites me because what do I love? I love sports. But what do I love more than sports? I love people, right? So that's already, I'm a different cat than a lot of people in the industry. Not that they don't love people, but I actually mean to say, I like to make the show, the creation about the people. Now, for Around the Horn, that was the expert columnists and reporters that I worked with. But what do I feel in my heart? Well, the people are the viewers. The people are the community, right? So I'm cooking, and what I want to crack, what I really want to make is something that is a shared place for me and the community that loves sports or loves life, or maybe just likes me, right? Or likes who they've come to know through the past years and want to go in the next place with me. So I want to make stuff that is fan centric, honestly. So I know we just talked about, shows that already exist. I don't think enough shows exist where the fan is the focus. And that's something I'm thinking about. That's what I want to create. I want to create a show.
Well, whatever show
I go around the horn with you, Dion. I got one page
exactly,
already. Yeah.
exactly. Whatever show you have, man, maybe you can have me on there. Who knows, man?
Well, this is what I think. I think sports fans historically, the greater sports media has viewed sports fans as the people who watch what we give them, or the people who watch sports more specifically, right? But I think where the world is now in all forms of content creation or whatever, social media, it's not passive like that. They're not just watching, they're part of it. So whatever I create, it's going to be where fans are part of the creation and not just viewers of the creation.
Well, I like your energy, Tony, man.
Thank you, my friend.
You walk around the horn. You got really good energy, man.
Yeah,
When
man.
you walk in a room, man, it's like, man, they know who you are, man. When you leave that room,
I that's a nice thing to say. I like that. I like that description. I'll take that. I don't know what they scored me here in my NBA Jam. Let's see. Take a look at this. First off, somewhere on here it says that Sarah Spain's blocks are only a 6. Sarah Spain, if she was in the game defensively, she would be a problem. She'd be like prime Mutombo. So here we are. She'd be a 10. But I don't know. They should have given me higher speed, my energy, yeah. So that's where we are.
I'll give you a 10 for energy, Tony, man. I'll give you a 10.
Thank you. Man. Thank you, my friend.
So now that you are a free agent,
yeah,
and you shining in your own right now, in the industry like Ernie Johnson, Scott Hansen, what inspire you? What do you consider for your next steps?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you talk about some inspirations are always important, right? You look at what do you like what other people are doing. A real inspiration for me was the chef Anthony Bourdain, who had a TV show and many TV shows.
He used to travel all across the world.
Right, he traveled and he found how food, because he was a chef, brings people together. And I saw inspiration in that because I feel sports, like food, brings people together. And I feel conversation about sports can do that. And so I used him as inspiration as I'm creating what is going to be the next thing in some ways. But there are other parts of me that aren't just, commenter and tastemaker, because I believe he was literally a tastemaker, pun intended. So I like games. I like game shows. I like interactive gamifying. So some of those guys you just named, they're more consummate hosts. I like in the digital spaces now that people can interact with each other in ways that you couldn't really. I mean, you love Jeopardy. You just mentioned it because you can play at home.
Well, yeah, I like Wheel of Fortune though. I've been wanting to go on Wheel of Fortune,
Yeah, okay. But you still play at home, and that's a trick. That's a wonderful trick of a game show. So to have sports conversation or sports content that you can play along, to me, would be a great thing. And now think of how you consume some more digital shows instead of just a TV show. I mean, you could have on PTI when we invented. We being Eric Rydholm and Matt Kelleher specifically, but we invented the rundown that shows you what's coming up next. That was groundbreaking for TV. Like, oh, the next topic is this. I'm going to hang around and wait till okay, good. Well, I mean, now I'm watching streams and you've got all the commenters involved in the discussion, and the person hosting the show is playing the hits of what the person on the comments are asking. It's a real-time exchange of people. Well, that's what I'm going to be doing for sports conversation. That's the inspiration. Taking some of the feelings. I'm going to make feelings, Dion. I'm not just going to make shows. I'm going to make feelings. So even as microscopic as they might be in that moment. But that's kind of what Bourdain did. But I feel like you could almost do that in real time in an interactive way. And that's what I want to do.
Well, Tony, it was a pleasure having you on, man. And whatever you do, I think it's going to be great, man.
All right, Dion, let me ask you this. Do you have a piece of paper around? Why don't you crumple up the paper and hit the camera lens? You brought that up. I don't. You got yes. All right. So come up with your tagline. Come on, hit the lens. Oh.
Yeah, there we go. We got it right.
All right, Dion. I'm feeling the positivity. Thank you for this.
Man, I've been thinking that we've been around the horn because I've been hearing buttons in there, man. You've been muting me the whole time, man. You've been acting like you haven't, man. I got like 20 points and then it went to 10, you know, and it was like rapid fire.
Dion, it was great talking to you. And most of all, thank you for sharing your brother. You said Simeon, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing his story. And let's make him go forward with us.
Well, appreciate having you on again, man.
Mm-hmm.